thanks everyone for joining us today. We've had an incredibly positive response to our interview series where we've been interviewing our senior leaders. Today I have the pleasure of welcoming Peter Hendry, CEO of NG Marketing. NG Marketing is one of our largest horticultural co-ops here in New Zealand. And so it's great to have you here, and thanks very much for joining us, Peter.
Thanks, Ross. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for having us.
So Peter, really would like to just ask a few questions and see how you're tracking. Obviously, we're out in the midst of lockdown, level 4 in Auckland and level 2 in the rest of the country. So really just in terms of setting the scene, give us a little bit of background about yourself, about NG Marketing and your vision for the cooperative.
Yeah, sure. Look, I've been with MGs for quite a number of years, and 23 years in fact. So started with the business and key accounts, and then sort of worked through various other elements of the business, getting involved in procurement, branch management, then moved into operations, then into the GM role, and eventually ending up in the CE role. So that's been a journey of 23 years, and now I've been doing the CE role for 10 years. So what a length of time, certainly enjoying the role. And prior to joining MG, I was actually in retail. So I was involved with Progressive in the various fresh divisions there, meat and seafood, bakery, dairy frozen, and some grocery categories as well. So always been involved in the fresh sector. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey along the way. In terms of NG Marketing, we are probably the only sales marketing cooperative in the horticultural industry in New Zealand. We're actually one of the larger wholesalers in terms of domestic product within New Zealand. We have 11 operations throughout the country. 2 of those are virtual models that we operate, where we actually don't touch the product at all. It just goes straight from our growers into the various supermarket DCs. We have over 400 people working in the organisation throughout New Zealand, which is a substantial business. That's just in our marketing side. And then we do have farming operations as well, where we have over 200 people working in our farming operations. And also there's a number of associate and subsidiary businesses we're involved in, which involve export, auction flowers, also another marketing business of domestic citrus. And also, as I said, farming operations were a berry fruit operation in Cambridge and a large hothouse and outdoor greens operation in Nelson. In terms of our vision for the business, we want to be one of the leaders in the industry in terms of horticulture. We want to make sure that we're the preferred choice for our growers and our customers. And we want to make sure that the organisation is a great place to work and want to attract young people to the industry. So our primary goals that we want to achieve as an organisation.
That's great. And I think what's quite neat is hearing you talk about the fact that you've come out of a corporate with Progressive and then come into a co-op. So you've got an understanding of how the 2 different business models run. So just in terms of NG Gardening right now, what's the key issues that you're facing right now?
Look, we've got a number of issues. I think, if you look at the bigger picture stuff and long-term stuff, I think, one of the challenges we have in horticulture is we do have an aging grower base, and that's concerning because a lot of them now are getting into their late 50s and 60s. There is not a lot of succession coming through in some of these family businesses, which is of concern. A lot of the kids have moved on to other careers and haven't stayed with the family farming operation. So we see that as being an issue, and we see down the track consolidation of farming operations as well. So we're experiencing now fewer growers, but larger growers. And as a cooperative model, that's a challenge for us, because I think the cooperative model works well when you have a lot of medium to small size growers, and when they get larger, it becomes more of a challenge in terms you have relevance with those growers in that space. So that's one of the challenges. I think attracting young talent to the industry in terms of growing is a challenge. In terms of our own business, we've actually been quite successful in attracting young talent to the business, but in terms of actual on-farm, that is quite a challenging space to get young people to try and come and work in the space. So we're doing a lot of work in that area around our own farming operations with summer internship programs, with just targeting the schools in the regions to get kids to come and work over the summer holidays, and it's really just a learning experience for them. and then hopefully it might spark an interest with the hope that they'll actually want to have a career in this industry, because it's quite different from what people probably perceive. It's about managing people, it's about technology, it's actually quite sophisticated. So it's important they get a good understanding of that. Plus we have grower graduate programs that we have on farm that we're involved in ourselves, which has been quite difficult attracting people to that space. But we've now got 2 or 3 people that are interested in coming on board. So it's trying to develop that and develop their careers in the industry, which is important. Also, increasing operating costs, I think, is another real issue for our industry. You know, a lot of the growers would say they're price takers in the market, and when costs continue to rise, they feel like they're getting squeezed. So from our point of view, you know, we're working on strategies to make sure that we're working a lot closer with growers around their plantings, their forecasting of volumes coming to market, to make sure we can get a sustainable return for them going forwards. We see that as being really important into the future. Also, retaining labour is a major issue for us at the moment, and obviously there's been a lot of talk in the media about the labour shortages in the horticultural industry. That's an ongoing issue for us. It's a real concern, and we're not really seeing a lot of light at the end of the tunnel in that space at the moment. So that is a real concern for us. And even in our own business around warehousing logistics, that space is becoming very difficult for us in attracting people. Our costs in that space have gone up significantly in the last 6 months, and retaining people is not easy either in that space. And we're actually having to incur significant costs to retain our people, because the demand for them is quite significant at the moment. And lastly, I think, you know, for the growers, environmental challenges, obviously something we're all grappling with at the moment around nitrates, and also ETS schemes, you know, around the emission trading units. Obviously, they're increasing in value at a significant rate. You know, I think they're now over $60 per unit. And for our hothouse growing operations throughout New Zealand, you know, that's putting a real pressure in terms of costs on those businesses. So there are things that we're working on in terms of our own growing operation. Nelson, we're in the process of converting over to biomass there. That's a significant project that we've been fortunate to get some co-funding from government on to make that project happen. So we've been working with ECA for some years now, and have been progressing to try and be, you know, improve our carbon footprint on that property. So yeah, a lot of investment going on in that space. So it's costs a lot of money to convert away. So for some growing operations, that's going to be a challenging space. Yeah, so they're probably the key challenges that we have. There's many more, but they're probably the key ones that we focus on.
It's interesting hearing you talking, because I think the comments around succession planning and smaller growers, but growing to be larger growers, you know, increasing operating costs, labour, environmental issues, you know, they're the same sorts of things I'm hearing across the board. And I don't think it matters what business you're in right now. It's those issues are still highly relevant. In terms of how MG Marketing's navigating the latest alert level changes, you know, obviously COVID's had a massive impact on all of our members. Can you talk us through some of the things that you've been doing there?
Yeah, sure. Look, we're fortunate that we're an essential service, so we're able to operate during level 4, which is great for us and our growers. But it is challenging. It is a challenging space in the sense that yeah, our operations, they're quite large operations. We've had to try and divide them up into what we call zones to try and separate workers completely away from each other, so that if we do end up with a positive case within an operation, that hopefully we can confine it to a certain area within the business, and only that area would go down, not the whole operation. We have people working in pods, so again, trying to confine areas to, again, if you get a positive case, it only affects that area. But what we're seeing now, because we have had a positive case in our administration area, is the way they actually assess those areas was actually quite different from what we've experienced in the past. So it's now based on airspace and movement through those airspaces. So we've had to adapt in those areas a little bit there. But I think the team have adapted really well, and everyone understands the importance of separation within the business and are very good at adhering to those. The other part we're really focused on is around our cleaning and sanitising the facility, and making sure we're doing all the documentation on that stuff. So if you do have a case, you've got the records to demonstrate what you've actually been doing to sort of safeguard our people and also the workplace. In terms of our what we call our vulnerable employees, people that might be of a certain age or have a certain health condition, we've asked them not to come to work at all, so they basically just put their feet up at home, because a lot of it's warehousing and logistics work, so they can't do anything. We pay them while they're not at work. We just don't want to have any of our staff members exposed in any way, shape or form, so we're quite conservative in that space. And making sure, that we do have backup teams available to go in if we do get a closure of a certain area within the operation. So our sales guys, a lot of them are trained in warehouse logistics as well. We have over 3/4 of our sales team functioning from home at the moment. And in the event that we were to lose one of our warehousing logistics teams, we'll bring those guys in to oversee the operation going forward. So we've got a cleaning regime in place that if we did get a positive case, we can sanitize the area quickly, get approval from MB to get going again, and then bring in the new team to take over. Would be challenging, but we do have backup plans to actually try and address that if we do have a positive case. Hopefully that won't be the case. So, but it is an evolving situation, and we just got to keep adapting our processes to what's happening and what we're learning.
Yeah, I think it's interesting hearing you talking about that, because the point about having to adapt, everyone's having to make this up as we go along, as we're seeing the government having to do, and then obviously how you're applying it within business. So it's really good to hear, you've obviously got some very clear structure there to enable you to keep operating if you get a positive case. So that's fantastic. You may have already covered some of this off, but in terms of MG marketing and future-proofing yourself, what's the future vision look like in terms of that, given where we are right now?
Look, for us, we put a lot of value on our people in the organisation. So we're quite good at retaining our people in the business and key roles and sales roles and so on. So there is a downside to that. You end up with an ageing workforce, and we've got a lot of people that have been in the business for 20 years. So we've put a lot of emphasis in the last 5 years around attracting young people to our organisation. So we've set up our graduate program, which we're in our 5th year of now, and we've been quite successful with that. We take on anywhere between, typically in a typical year, we take on between sort of 4 or 5 grads a year. Last year we had a really good intake, and we took on I think about 9, which was a big intake for us. And I think the key thing with our grad program is we've been quite successful in retaining those people in the business. So they come on they do a 9-month program, and at the end of that 9 months, we offer them a full-time role within the business. And I think over the 5 years, we've only lost 2 of our grads during that process, which is a great outcome for us. So we're getting quite a good influx of young people coming to the organisation who are incredibly smart, pick things up really quick, and it's just adding a different dimension to the business. Also, we have what we call our academy program, which is a program where we identify people within the organisation and we put them through a program which is similar to the grad program. And again, we've had over, I think, about 40 people come through that in the last 5 years as well. And we're fortunate that all those people are still in the business as well. So we're investing in developing our people, and also the good news is we're actually retaining them within the business, which is positive. The other areas that we're focusing on is around making sure we've got relevance with our retail customers and our growers. So we've done a lot of work around IP development in certain categories, and we're now starting to see the benefit of that come into the business and to the market. So there's a huge focus around IP, and the focus there for growers is making sure that when we're selecting products, it's easy for them to grow because of the yields they want. It's easy to manage, those sorts of things. And then from a retail point of view, it looks good, tastes good. It's something the consumer wants. So we're quite focused at both ends in terms of when we're selecting IP, that it suits both the grower and the consumer and the retailer. Also, in terms of our farming, in terms of future-proofing our business, we have got involved in farming, which you might say goes against the cooperative principles. But for us, it's about making sure we can secure supply in key categories that require quite a lot of capital investment. So typically in those areas, we're looking to do that in glasshouse structures where the capital investment is quite significant, whereas various families don't want to make those sort of investments. We're taking the front step in that space and actually investing quite significant funds into hothouse operations, and also undercover cropping and berry fruit. That's the other area that we're investing in. So where we invest in farming is where our cooperative members may not want to invest, and it's high capital, and it's about controlling the environment and taking risk out of the business, essentially. So there's a fair bit going on in that space for us. The other thing we've focused really hard on is around working a lot closer with our growers, increased our resources that interface with the growers, and try and work more closely in terms of what's going on in their business to ensure they've got a sustainable business long term. We see that being really important. And the other one is information systems and technology, making sure we're using the data and using our systems to be efficient in terms of the way we actually transact sales. And as I touched on earlier on, business diversification has been quite an important strategy for us moving forward. So we have several associate and subsidiary businesses that we're involved in, and that's just about diversifying our risk within the business, but also offering our growers different channels to market as well through those associates and subsidiaries.
That's fantastic. You've obviously got a broad range of different initiatives that you've got underway there, so it's great to hear about them. In terms of, I mean, you talked about the fact that you are investing, creating businesses that potentially could be outside of the co-op model principles, but in terms of the co-op principles and the Rochdale principles, how do you engage with fellow cooperatives like you in terms of that piece around collaboration?
Yeah, look, we're not, we do a wee bit in that space. I think the two co-ops we deal a lot with is obviously our retail partners, being Foodstuffs, South Island and North Island. We do a lot with those guys. Obviously, they're an important customer to us. We have a great relationship with them, and obviously our principles are very similar in terms of the way we operate. And they're our largest customer that we have, and we continue to grow our business with them. And as I say, it seems to work very well for us. The relationships there are very strong. And we do share, good insights to our own businesses with each other, and it just seems to be a relationship that works really extremely well. But that's where our main focus is with other cooperatives at the moment.
Oh, that's great. And so obviously the key thing around the co-op construct is how do you keeping your shareholders engaged and close. How have you found that, especially over COVID?
Yeah, look, our communications, it's all been email and obviously phone calls and so on, but we've done a lot of work around making sure that our growers are well informed, especially last year when it first hit. I think everyone was quite panicked by the situation back in 2020. I think they're a lot more relaxed this time, because I think the systems and processes we have in place have demonstrated we can handle the situation quite well. But again, just around good comms with growers. We were just in the process of doing our annual grower shed meetings that we get around the country and do each year just before lockdown occurred this time. So we try to do that every year, where we get to the regions and just talk about what's going on with the business and things that involve their input and so on. We do a lot of that. We also do things around trying to encourage our growers to get involved in developing their business. So we have what we call a program called Growing You, which is about bringing expertise from the universities, experts in various sectors, like using fertilizers and so on, nitrates and so on, and succession planning, those sorts of things. Bring the groups together and talk about how we can actually assist them in developing their business in that space. Also, we have regular supply line, which is our written communication that goes out every quarter. It's a formal sort of newsletter that we send out, which is important to keep them abreast of what's happening with various growers and so on. We see that as being important. And just the daily contact we have with growers through our marketing reps and our procurement teams. There's very regular contact occurring with them. So we see that as being pretty important.
How many growers have you got, Peter?
We've got about 700.
Right.
Yep.
So it's quite significant.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in terms of, from your perspective, what is the benefit of being a cooperative?
Look, I think the key principle of the cooperative is it brings a diverse group of growers together, and it allows us to have a strong platform to market their product to our retail customers and food service. So I think that's the primary objective of what we do, and I think we do a reasonably good job in achieving that for our growing community. Also, I think from our point of view, it focuses us on making sure that we are focused on getting a sustainable return for our growers so they can invest in their operations for the future. And I think, having a shared vision on the direction of the business with our growers is important as well, where they can understand the direction of the business and what that means for their business. Operating with transparency, I think, is very important, and we do that, which then obviously leads into openness and trust. I think over the last sort of 5 to 6 years, we've done a lot of work in that space to build on that. Also, and trying to create a platform where the growers can actually share ideas with each other and actually learn from each other has been pretty important. So
I think what you're saying there about the transparency and openness and trust, that's what I hear a lot in terms of the co-op model. To make sure you keep that shareholder engagement, that's absolutely key. And that's a big challenge for execs who have come out of corporate environments to then have those behaviours coming into co-op world. So yeah, it's great to hear you talk about that. Just before we wrap it up, Peter, is there anything else that you'd like to share?
Oh, look, Ros, I've enjoyed my time with you today. Look, no, I think we've pretty much covered everything. I just want to thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about MG marketing and what we're doing with our growers and the cooperative model. And hopefully, it's been insightful for some others to hear.
Yeah, look, I think what you're talking about in terms of your response to COVID and the business model, I think it was absolutely fantastic. So I really appreciate your time today. And look, we'll be sharing this video out with our broader audiences, as I say. And if there's anyone out there who'd like to engage with Cooperative Business New Zealand in terms of being part of the broader network with individuals such as Peter with their knowledge, or if you're looking to establish your business utilising the co-op model, please do get in contact with us. That's what we're here for. The great thing here is talking to Peter, it really does show the diversity of the business model and its application to multiple different industries. So your businesses are vital to the New Zealand economy. And I think right now it's a very exciting time with regards to where we go next. So thanks again, Peter, for your time.